Today we are going to talk about 4 things you can do to avoid debt in your business. So the first thing we can do is to bootstrap. As entrepreneurs, we all know what bootstrapping means, but that's just where you get out there and you try to do it yourself and you don't try to pay the expert to do it. So for example, I built my own website, which is kind of funny considering I'm a CPA and accountant. Not a graphic designer, definitely not my skill. But I was able to do it because there's a lot of great tools right now. I mean, WordPress is super easy. There's all these other tools that are relatively inexpensive and they really make you look like you know a lot more than you actually do, which is great. And there's a lot of tools like that, especially for graphic design and a lot of other things that might work well for you. So I want you to consider what you really need and what you don't really need right now, especially if you're just starting out in business. Don't go out and get a loan for all these fancy things because like a website and a new logo and everything when you're just starting your business, because you might actually want to change it in 6 months anyway. So just something to think about. So definitely try to bootstrap where you can. And if something is just crazy taking you so long to do, then it might be time to reconsider. So the second thing is to use your own money. And this might be kind of weird because you might be going, Hannah, if I had money, I wouldn't be going out to the bank or putting things on my credit card. But I'm talking specifically about if you have money on your personal side, maybe you have a personal savings account, or maybe there was an inheritance. I don't know. Everybody's situation is different. But sometimes we don't think about moving that money from our personal to the actual business accounts. And I want you to consider it because seeing a business owner actually putting their own money into a business is kind of seen as a form of confidence. So if I went in and put $5,000 into my business, it's saying I really believe that putting this money into my business is going to be worth it. It's going to have something coming out of it. And if down the line, a bank might look at that and go, okay, well, they've invested their own money, or even investors down the road, if you put your own money into your business, that's kind of seen as a positive thing. And I'm not talking about other people's money, OPM, because that starts to dilute ownership, and that's not what we're talking about right now. We might touch on that later. So the third thing you can do is to pre-sell your products or ask for deposits on services or products. So if you don't know what that means, so that means that if you had a product-based business, you would go out and you would start selling your product before you even have it. Maybe you have just one item and you go out and you try to say, hey, this is pretty cool. Do you want to buy this? And then you basically start collecting orders and you start asking for deposits or asking for upfront payment so that you can go buy the materials to create the thing and give it to the customer. And this is a great way to get cash up front before you have to make big inventory purchases and before you have to do, pay for all the things that you have to do to create your product. This is really popular in the clothing industry because banks hate and investors hate giving money to giving money for inventory. So I listened to a podcast called How I Built This with Eileen Fisher, and she actually started her clothing company by creating just one garment. And so she went out and or just one set of garments, so she only had one of everything. And so she went out to the market where all the buyers come in, and she was able to pre-sell her clothes. And that is how her whole empire was built. Now she's a $300 million company, and all of her ownership is internal. Her employees own the company, and she owns the company. There's no external funding from other sources, which I just think is so cool. But yeah, so that was a pre-sale situation. I've heard this with other clothing companies as well. Another thing you can do if you're a service-based company is you can ask for deposits. So say that you're a landscape designer and you've set up your contract with a person, but you might not be actually finished for 3 to 4 months from design to installation. So what are you going to do in the meantime? I mean, that might be your main project for a summer or for a season. And the best thing you can do in that situation is try to get some cash up front in the form of a deposit. And that deposit will help you buy inventory. It will help you just pay your bills for operating your business during the time. And then it just kind of helps you plan your cash over a period of time. So definitely consider deposits as a way to avoid debt. Pre-selling and deposits. And the fourth thing is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is super fun to talk about. We've all participated or seen a Kickstarter or something where somebody's selling something really cool, a cool idea. We've purchased some things through crowdfunding, but it's an interesting way to get money into a business. So what crowdfunding does for the business owner is that it allows you to test your concept, which is really important, especially if you want to go out for other investments later. You can test to see if people are really even interested in this thing that you've created in your head and maybe you have a prototype of. And then the other thing is that you get to have the cash before you actually have to produce the product. And that is huge because you don't have to take on that financial risk. It's like just the coolest thing ever. And then on top of that, layer on top of the cool, is that you don't have to give up equity. When people are crowdfunding you, they might be giving you $25, but what they're getting back in return is that cool t-shirt that you've designed that you're trying to pre-sell or whatever it is. So they feel like they're getting what they wanted, and then you're getting the cash to produce the thing. So you don't actually have to give them stock. You don't have to give them any type of ownership, voting rights, anything. You just get the cash is what you need to produce the goods. So it is a very, very, very cool and interesting way to bring money into the business. But I do have to caveat that to say it is not easy to do. You want to be really strategic and make sure that that is the right thing for your business before you go in and do that. But it is definitely an option. And especially if you were in that product business and you had a really cool idea. So that's 4 things you can think about as you're considering whether or not to take on debt in your business. And so let me know if there's anything else that you've done creatively that you were able to avoid charging something on the credit card or going out to the bank. I'd love to hear about it. All right, thanks. Have a good day. Bye. And I just wanted to come on and say hi. And we've been talking about debt past couple weeks, and I don't love debt, so I want to talk to you about how you can avoid it. And then we'll talk about it later if we really need to go there. I'll have some tips for you in a couple weeks.